Welcome to Care Sandwich, the podcast where we dive into the success journeys of law firm owners across the country. I'm Margarita Everline, your host and the founder of Marketing Boss, a fractional chief marketing officer firm for law firms. On this show, we'll explore the challenges, strategies, and victories that have shaped law firms and how they wrap every interaction with care. Because we believe that caring isn't just a value, it's a strategy for success. So grab your favorite sandwich, sit back, and let's dig into a conversation filled with insight, inspiration, and of course, a lot of care. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Care Sandwich. I am actually filming this on site at the law offices of Starret Harris, and I have the pleasure of interviewing one of my favorite clients and people, Wesley. He is a personal injury attorney, and he's going to tell you all about himself. But first, Wesley, before you go into your legal career and what you do for people, I need you to answer an important question.
What's that?
What is your favorite sandwich?
My favorite sandwich is definitely a Cuban.
Really?
Yes.
What about the Cuban so delicious?
Ham and cheese.
Simple. Okay. All right. Well, tell us about your law career now. What do you do? How do you help people? How do you prove to your clients that you care?
Well, we try to take a pretty personal approach to dealing with our clients. All of our clients get our cell phone numbers. We communicate with them. We just recently started our own app at the firm here, so our clients can download our app and they can communicate with us directly through the app by sending us messages. They can download the app and log on to check the status of their case and to find out what's going on. And at every single stage of the case, they'll get, direct communications from us about what stage their case in, what that means, and what the steps are going forward, so that they're always aware of what's going on with their case.
So, Wesley, why personal injury? What was it about this area of the law that inspired you to launch this firm and create this customer experience that you're describing?
Well, I was a police officer for about 10 years. And when I was working the night shift at the police department one time, I just got home from work. And I got a phone call that came in from a trooper I know, and my wife's father had been killed in a tractor-trailer accident on I-285 in Atlanta. And, I went and with her, and we dealt with the process of hiring a personal injury attorney and trying to hold the company accountable. It was a trucking company, and the driver had fallen asleep at the wheel. The driver had been driving way too long, way over their hours, wasn't keeping up with their log. And, going through that process with her, I decided that that's what I want to do. I want to help families who've been through similar situations, basically put the pieces of their life back together and move forward.
So that one incident gave you the aha moment because you lived it with your wife and your family to just go take the LSAT, walk us through that. How that must have not
kind of
been
always
easy.
wanted to go the law school route, when even in high school.
Okay.
And, it worked out to where, my dad was a police officer, my mom was a school teacher. I didn't come from a family that had a whole lot of money. We didn't have a college fund or plans set up or anything like that. And my parents did a lot to help me out, and I'm really grateful for it. And I certainly didn't have a bad childhood by any means, but, paying for law school just wasn't in the cards right out the gate. Mm-hmm. And so I had to get a job and go to work and kind of, pay the bills, and so to speak. But after doing that, and that happened right there, I decided to recommit myself, and I took out a bunch of student loans, and, we made it work.
Yeah. I know what that's like because I can relate to your story in the sense that at one point I wanted to go to law school, and I thought, oh my gosh, how am I going to pay for this? What am I going to do? And then I went the marketing route, but I stayed here. I'm good. And I get to work with attorneys like you, so it worked out for me. But let me ask you this.
It's pretty scary when you're looking at the amount of debt you have to take on. And it's probably not just law school. I guess any career nowadays that you're looking at a monstrous amount of debt and responsibility. And, for someone who doesn't come from money or doesn't have, anything to fall back on, it's pretty intimidating.
Yeah. Yeah, and the standard of living too with a family. You had a family at the time, so that's a really big step that you took, and to commit to yourself, to your family, to yourself, into this line of work. Wesley, when I think about personal injury based on my experience with marketing, I think about billboards, TV ads, and volume. And one of the things that I like about you, your firm, and your partner Kevin, that you are aligned in this, you're very clear on who your niche is, your target is. Walk us through how you got there and how that helps you be a better attorney.
Well, first off, I've been practicing law now for going on probably 15 years, maybe a little longer. And when I started out as a prosecuting attorney. I did that for 2 years. I worked for Douglas County, and one of the cases I worked on at Douglas County was a dram shop case where a young lady had been hurt really bad. Another young female had died as a result of underage drinking. That was a car accident involved. And long story short, I worked very closely with the civil attorney who was representing one of the victims' families, and got to know him, and went to work for that civil firm, and worked there for probably about 4 years maybe before I left. And that's how I kind of got steered. That's before I started my own practice. But I guess one of the things that I learned early on working at that firm and just dealing with victims at the prosecutor's office and stuff is that I wanted to be able to help people, help them recover. And it's, if you're doing any kind of like big volume practice, and nothing against the folks that do volume, because that's a need that's being filled in society. Like they handle cases that our firm just wouldn't. We don't have the resources to take, because it requires a very staff-heavy environment to run those cases, because you can't have the attorney working on those files, because you can't afford to do it. The cases don't generate enough in revenue and income to justify, having an attorney be the one who's the point of contact on that file. But the 2 or 3 things I noticed working at other firms before I started my own practice is, one, with the smaller cases, it seems like the clients usually have an unrealistic expectation about what the outcome's going to be. That everybody watches these TV and billboard ads and see these attorneys holding up these giant checks, and they don't realize that most of the time that those cases where there's big money involved usually involve pretty serious injuries. A lot of times, oftentimes catastrophic injuries that are life-changing. And so they have this unrealistic expectation that they get rear-ended and they went to the chiropractor for 3 weeks, that they're going to get some, life-changing amount of money, and that's just not the case. That's not reality. And, so there's that. And then there's also the fact that oftentimes, you're dealing with folks who not only they have unrealistic expectations, but they're also very demanding clients. They want a lot of time and attention, and it's hard to explain to them that, I can't give you this time and attention because, I'll be losing money on your case. And, obviously, I started this firm to help people, and that's what I want to do, but you're not going to be in business to help people very long if you start losing money. And so, you got to be profitable. And so part of that analysis is that, you look at, what kind of cases can we do and still meet the goals that we want to meet in a firm. And, I went through that experience with my wife, and, I decided that, I really want to help people who've been through really serious injuries, catastrophic cases, wrongful death cases, things that are involving pretty serious in nature
life
injuries.
Altering.
Yeah, because when you've been through something like that, you really have to have the attention and guidance that it takes from an attorney, from not just them, but from other folks in your life. It's to put everything back together and move forward. It takes a lot. And, being able to do that for folks is, just, it's very rewarding professionally, personally, I enjoy it. I like to help people, and I like to see the fact that when we start a case that we leave folks and their families better than when we found them.
I like that. And I'm going to expand a little bit on something that you said or something that you described. So when you are in a high volume case scenario in personal injury, you may have cases that maybe are not worth much, or that, you hit policy limits, and a customer is not going to understand that. So like as a marketer, I often try to play the forget game, right? And I try to forget that I'm a marketer, that I know about injury attorneys, and I look at marketing in a market. And I look at, get this cash, get paid. I see those ads, and I think if I was a consumer who didn't know anything, I feel like I would believe that even if I'm like bumped a little bit on the highway, I may become a millionaire if I just call the right attorney. It's like a subliminal message. I think that all the I don't know that we do it on purpose or people do it on purpose, but it's like all the marketing put together, when you experience it from the point of view of the customer that doesn't know anything, that's what it's like screaming, right?
That's exactly what I was talking about, and because of that image and that marketing, and I'm not, like I said, I'm not hating on the folks that do that, because that's definitely filling a need, because not every firm can handle the cases that we handle, because they can't devote the time and attention it takes to them. And our firm is not equipped to handle those smaller cases, because they require a lot of staff, and we have. I run a small office. There's 3 attorneys in my office. There's 3 staff. There's 6 of us total. Between all 6 of us here, we handle an average caseload of about 50 to 55 cases annually a year. I've had a couple of friends who work for some really big marketers here in Atlanta. I'm not going to mention their name, but some very good friends of mine still work at those firms and are attorneys there, and they've confided in me that their caseload on average for one attorney can be as high as 400. But it's typically between 200 and 400, somewhere in that range. There's no way as an attorney with 400 cases, or even 300, probably not with even 200,
right,
even the lower number there, that you're going to know enough about your cases and what's going on with them to be able to give them the kind of attention it would take to make to handle one of the cases like we handle. And obviously, like I said, that's a different market.
Right.
Those cases that they're handling don't really require the kind of attention
right.
that we do. So that's why I said they fill a niche. But the truth of the matter is that that personally and professionally for me, that work just really isn't very rewarding. And I want to represent folks who are I like to use the term worthy plaintiffs. I like to represent folks who not only do you see them and you meet them and you want to help them, but they're folks who you feel like if I don't do this, somebody's got to help these people. They're, and honestly, I think that representing folks like that it's easier in a lot of respects, because when I feel that way about someone, when I meet them and they're my client, I know that when a jury is sitting across the aisle and we're trying that case at some point in time, that the 12 people sitting in that box are going to look at this person and they're going to feel the same way I do. They're going
right.
to want to help them. And, if you can get to that right there, that's half the battle.
Mm-hmm. I like that. And I think that in many ways, when I look at your marketing and your voice, which is very much you and your law firm culture, you're very much about going deep with your clients. And that shows in the video content and in the testimonials. And it's very curated, because you've curated your clients, having that clarity and going after those specific clients, and then having that be aligned with your passion. And I think that's wonderful, and that's really great advice.
I hope you're enjoying the conversation and your sandwich as much as we are. I want to take a moment to share a few words about our sponsor, Marketing Boss. If you're a law firm owner looking to supercharge your growth, our team at Marketing Boss is here to help. We've got over a decade of experience and a proven track record, and we specialize in growing law firms like yours with data-driven marketing leadership. So if you own a law firm and you're ready to get a predictable, steady flow of cases from your marketing, let's connect at marketing-boss.com.
Wesley, what advice would you give somebody that maybe is thinking about following in your footsteps and says, wow, like it resonates and I want to do personal injury for the same reasons and I want to niche down? What would you advise them, or what would you tell yourself 10 years ago about what it's like to do it this way?
When I talked to folks when I was starting out in my law career, and I told people I was going to law school, I was going to be an attorney, believe it or not, most of the feedback I got was pretty negative. From most of the attorneys I knew that were practicing law, they were like, I don't recommend you do this. This isn't the kind of lifestyle you want. This is stressful. You're not going to make the kind of money you're going to think that you're going to make. And I'll say that for most of them that was true probably. But, you know, I feel like if you really love what you do, then you're really not working. And I love what I do. I love helping people. I love having my own practice. I love getting to meet with different people who've been through, you know, life-changing events. And then, like I said, the rewarding part is getting to leave them better than I found them, you know, getting to help them put the pieces back of their life together, get back on the right track, get back to, you know, living. And of course, most of the folks that we represent here, I'll say at least a lot of them, a large percentage of them, their lives are never going to be the same, you know, pre-incident, pre-injury, pre-loss of, you know, their loved one, you know, that their life afterwards never going to be the same as it was before. But, you know, getting to help them find out what that life looks like now going forward and help them get back to living and just getting back to doing the things that they want to do and enjoy after something terrible has happened to them. It's just super rewarding. And so if someone else is wanting to start out in this, I would tell them, don't listen to the naysayers. You know, if you're really passionate about it, you want to do it, you know, get out there and make it happen. Because honestly, I don't think there's enough champions for justice out there. And I you know,
there's champions for paychecks, but maybe not justice, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, and you got to be a little bit of both. I mean, you know, because my clients don't hire me for
of course there's money to be made, but it's not the core.
No. But I'm saying when my clients come to see me, they want me to maximize the amount of money I can put in their pocket. And, you know, that's part of that seeking justice, because when something like this has happened, our civil justice system in America doesn't allow us to provide any other recourse. The only recourse we got is to hit someone in the pocketbook. And it really resonates true with large companies. I've been involved with lawsuits, and I'm currently involved with lawsuits, and you know, some of the top auto manufacturers in the world, and many other things. When you're dealing with folks who've made a defective product, or doctors who committed malpractice.
Walk us through that. How do you get those cases, and how do you work them?
Well, we talked about...
This is supposed to be a 15-minute podcast, I'm sorry, but this is fascinating.
So, you know, as far as how we get cases, all of our cases in our office come to us through our referral network and word of mouth. I mean, 100% referral-based. We do some social media marketing. And
branding and all that, but referrals.
I mean, but, you know, that's really so that we stay, you know, top of mind with our referral network, because... almost every case we have, and definitely every case we've had that's been over seven figures, every multi-million-dollar case we've settled in this firm has come from a trusted referral source. Because when you're hiring someone to work on a case like that, you're going to hire somebody that either you personally know or that someone you personally know is recommended highly to you. That's just the way I found it to work, at least for me.
And how do you work these cases? And I'm going to ask you a loaded question because I'm kind of looking for a specific answer, because I know what I want to hear. How do you handle these cases differently with your law enforcement experience? Because you've told me some really neat stories about these cases where you look where other people might not look. Share one.
Probably when I left the prosecutor's office, I went to work for that other law firm, and this law firm was a very much like eat what you kill law firm. You know, basically I had to bring into my business if I wanted to make money. I put the word out to all my attorney friends. I said, hey, I'm private practice now. I'm working at this law firm. Send me business, please, so I can eat.
Simple marketing. Ask.
Yeah. Very simple marketing. Just ask, hey, I'm hungry. Feed me. And one of a very good friend of mine who I've known for years as an attorney, he works in Marietta. He called me and said, hey, I got a girl that's has a DUI case, and she's in Douglas County. I don't really like going to Douglas County. I like staying in Cobb. I know you used to be a prosecutor there. Will you take this case and help her? And, we don't do criminal work. Obviously, we just do personal injury here. But at the time, whatever would pay the bills, I was trying to help, do that. And I said, sure, send her my way. And I took the case, and I met with this young, very nice African-American lady who came into my office and sat down with me across the table, and I basically just said, tell me what happened. And that's usually kind of how I start, all my conversation with clients, is just tell me what happened, because when you ask a very simple question and then sit back and listen, you get a lot more than you ask for sometimes.
Versus going through your checklist of incident date.
I don't sit down with a checklist. I have a blank legal pad when I sit down and consult with my clients, because that's how I want to be. I'm a blank page. I want you to tell me what happened and fill in the details, because what's important to you may not be something I think to ask. And that may be the difference maker in the case. It really wasn't this one, because I sat down to listen to her. She told me what happened, and she said, well, I was driving down the road, and she was going up Chapel Hill Road in Douglas County, and she was driving down the road, and she said her steering wheel locked up on her. And she said it locked up, and I couldn't control the vehicle. I came into the oncoming traffic lane, hit another vehicle head on. She said, I remember seeing the car, and then that was it. She woke up in the hospital. She was in a very, very serious crash, had pretty severe injuries. She was a marketer for some liquor company. She was marketing. She would basically go set up vendor displays. And so in the back of her car were all these bottles of liquor that they would go. And of course, she was in a bad crash, and there's broken bottles of alcohol everywhere. And she said she woke up in the hospital, and the police told her they were charging her with DUI. And
that's like a marketer's worst nightmare. You're just doing your job, and you happen to have alcohol in your car.
But I sitting here across from that lady, her story really hit home with me, and I believed her. And I said,
why did you believe her?
I wish I could tell you the why. It's just that I was, working in law enforcement for so many years, you kind of get a sense for when people are lying to you, and I didn't get that sense at all. And she seemed sincere, and once again, she was someone I really wanted to help. And so I'm sitting there having this conversation with her, and I'm like, I want to see this vehicle. I got to see this car. I've got to go find it. So I tracked the vehicle down. It was at a tow yard, and we go and we sit down at find out where the car is. I drive to wherever this tow yard is. It happened to be in Douglas County too. And I meet with the owner and tell him I need to look at this vehicle, and I represent the lady that was hurt. And we go out there and we take a look at the car, and I'm walking around the vehicle, and the whole front of the car is just caved in all the way up to the firewall. And as I'm walking around the vehicle, I'm noticing that there's like no airbags deployed in it. And so my first thought is, this may be a products case. It may be maybe the airbags are defective and they didn't deploy, and that may have contributed to her injury. But I knew enough to know something was wrong. I was wrong about what kind of case it was, but I knew enough to know something wasn't right here.
Right.
And, like I said, this was the very first personal injury case I ever handled.
But I love this because you took it as a DUI case and you were just trying to help somebody, and then it anyway, go on.
Yeah. So I ended up calling and getting an expert to come out. We did a black box download on the car, and we pulled all the data from it. And what we were able to determine was that the car, it was a 2005 Chevy Cobalt. It had slipped into accessory mode. And, a little bit of research on the internet will tell you that was kind of a big deal for GM back then. And this ended up being one of the first GM ignition cases. And we ended up bringing a case.
Oops, just like that. Hey guys, I'd like to have some cases. Can y'all just think of me next time? I'm hungry.
I ended up bringing a case against General Motors, and we made a good recovery for that young lady, and also.
And you were just getting started.
Yeah, that was my first personal injury case.
Wow.
So.
That's like saying you scratched your first lotto and got $1 million. Like, that's amazing.
Well, unfortunately, it wasn't that kind of money, but we did pretty good.
I mean, it's just very impressive. Like, what fascinates me about this story, and thank you because it's the one I was fishing for. What fascinates me about the story is that it was a series of random facts that this client shared because you started with an open-ended question and you were able to put it together in ways like this person didn't even probably think, oh, something happened with my car.
No, she had no idea.
Like, that's what I think is cool about this story. Like, because I'm picturing myself in her shoes. I wouldn't have thought, oh, it was a product issue. I would have just thought, oh man, something happened, and then oops.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that, because when she told me about the steering wheel locked up, that was the first thing I thought was, well, what happened to your vehicle? And she was like, I don't know if I ran off the road and it, or what, but she didn't even put it together that her steering wheel had locked up because of a mechanical defect.
Right.
And so, that was
random detail she probably didn't even realize was that important. She's just rambling.
But in my firm here, I can't tell you how many times I could probably regale you with 100 stories of different times that we've sat down with someone, and oftentimes it's probably one of the bigger cases I've handled here at my firm was a lady who had met with 2 or 3 other attorneys, and they had turned her case down. Her daughter had died in a car wreck, and the police had faulted the driver of the car her daughter was in, and it's a long story, but that she'd been turned down, and basically a young man who I used to play baseball with back in high school was her coworker, and he sent the case to me, and he called me and said, hey, can you help this person? And they've been turned down a couple times, and I said, sure, I'm happy to meet with them and talk with them, and maybe we can figure out what happened. And that's how I kind of approach every case is, let's see if we can figure out what happened. And that we end up proving that the other driver was at fault. And when I say proven, often you can say that in a case, we proved it in this case. And we were able to make a pretty successful claim for that family. And it feels good, and especially when they've been told you don't have a case. Right.
And you were able to flip that for them. That's amazing. I'm going to outline 3 takeaways, because I like to do this because it helps me make sure that things are sticking in my head. Lessons that I can glean from what you shared. Number 1 is be clear about who you are, and that's going to help you have clarity about who your ideal customer is. Am I right, or am I right?
100%.
And take the time, make the effort to connect with your clients above and beyond the legal process at your firm, because that's where you may come across information that can help you make a stronger case. I don't think enough attorneys do that, right?
I mean, well, and like I said, it's a different practice model, because if you're going to one of those firms where you see these billboards everywhere that say, we come to you, the attorney's not driving to your house. They're going to send some employee or an investigator or someone out there with a sign-up packet.
The we is not the attorney.
You sign up a case with them, and oftentimes you don't even get to meet with a lawyer until your case is settled or further on down the line in the case. But that's why I said, so it's just a different market, because it's, if you've got a case that involves serious injury, you need someone who's going to pay it serious attention. You need someone who's going to sit down with you and your family and explain to you not only what your options are as far as what you can do going forward, but they're going to take the time to listen to what happened. I mean, like I said, just sit and listen with a blank page. Listen to what happened, because you may learn things that may make all the difference in the world for this family. But if you don't take time to go out there and listen with them or sit with them or do that, and hey, like I said, I'm not taking shots at anybody here, because you can't do that in some of these cases.
Right.
These cases, they're don't involve very serious injury, and the case is really small. You can't. A law firm would go broke paying attorneys to go sit with every one of these clients and meet with them and do that. But that's, like I said, one of the reasons that we just don't do those cases, because we want to provide that white glove service. We want to provide that level of attention and detail.
And that's the third lesson that I'm gonna point out in my own words, because it helps me, is prioritize your business. When you have that clarity and you have those other things, you're able to prioritize your business so that you can show up in the way that you want to for your clients. I think that's such an important takeaway that you've shared through these stories, through these examples. Now, Wesley, most of the audience for my podcast is other attorneys. And if they would want to refer, or if they would like to refer a case to you or get in touch with you, or even if somebody's listening and they're not an attorney, how can they get a hold of you?
So my website is www.injurylawpros.com. My email is wesley@injurylawpros.com. And our phone number is 404-777-7LAW, which
Awesome.
is 529. But yeah, no, we work with referring attorneys all the time. We pay referral fees. We work very closely with our referral partners. Like I said, we're almost 100% referral business, and most of our cases come from other lawyers. So we're happy to work with attorneys all over the state of Georgia and even outside the state of Georgia, because right now we have cases going on in Mississippi, Ohio, Texas, a couple other places. We if it's a case that involves serious injury, and it's a case that we can work with you and help you with, we're happy to sit down and do it.
That's awesome. When you have a big case and you need big results, here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you all for tuning into this episode. We'll catch you on the next one. We're going to be interviewing our other law partner here, and I can't wait for you to meet him.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Care Sandwich. Remember, the way we care for our clients, our teams, and ourselves can make all the difference in our success. Until next time, keep caring, keep growing, and I'll see you on the next episode of Care Sandwich.